Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Gregory. I'm CEO of the Australian Jewish Association. I'll make this disclaimer at the outset. AJA does not endorse political parties or any particular candidates. We hear from a wide variety of political figures. And this interview and all of our political commentary is authorised by me, Robert Gregory, for the Australian Jewish Association, Sydney, New South Wales. Now, Macnamara is the Victorian seat with the most Jews living in it, and it's attracting a lot of attention this year, more than most years. Labor candidate Josh Burns has refused to advise voters to put the Greens last, and he'll instead run on an open platform, which many are saying makes a Greens victory much more likely. As anyone knows, Labor and the Greens are toxic in the Jewish community, but Labor has been running a bit of a scare campaign to frighten Jewish people into thinking that they must vote Labor, otherwise the Greens will be elected. Today, I'm speaking to Michael Kroger. Michael is an accomplished businessman, he's a former president of the Liberal Party, and he's a good friend to the Jewish community and to the AJA. Thank you so much for joining the AJA, Michael.
Pleasure, Robert.
So could you speak in a bit more detail about this scare campaign we've seen in Macnamara?
Yes, so Josh Burns, who, as everyone knows, is the Labor member, is in a very cowardly way saying to Jewish voters in particular, I'm giving an open ticket. I don't prefer the Liberal Party as number two or the Greens as number two. You make your own decision as to who you think you should vote for after me. In other words, he's saying there's effectively in his mind no difference between the Liberals and the Greens on Middle Eastern issues. Really, Josh? I mean, that's what he's saying. And his primary vote at the last election was 31.77%. The Greens got 29, and the Liberals got 29. Now, the Liberal vote was down quite a bit for various reasons. It'll be up. The Liberals will come first. So the battle in Macnamara is who comes second and third. Whoever comes third between the Greens and Labor will probably mean that the person that comes second wins. So what the Labor Party is saying is, oh, look, you've got to put Josh, you've got to vote for Josh because his vote has got to be above the Greens. Otherwise, the Greens will win. So he's trying to say to people, hey, it's me or the Greens, when there is a reasonable chance that the Liberal candidate Benson Salo would be elected. Now, the bottom line is this. If the Greens get elected in Macnamara, in other words, that Burns comes third, which is every chance he'll come third, well, the Greens can only get elected on Josh Burns's preferences. So if the Greens there was a poll recently showing the Greens 28, Burns 26. If the Greens get a majority of Burns's preference, yes, the Greens get elected. So the Greens can only get elected on Josh Burns's preferences, Robert. And so what Burns should have done is put the Liberals second.
So
So
it
if they
seems like
get elected, it's 100% the fault of Josh Burns.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy that Labor's telling everyone that if they don't vote for Labor, then the Greens will win, and so they're going to pull votes from the Liberals to Labor, which will stop the Liberals from winning. So
That's their plan.
how can voters do two things? How can they make sure the Greens do not get elected, but at the same time also send a strong message to Penny Wong, to Anthony Albanese, that the Jewish community doesn't support them? Is it possible to do both?
Probably not. It's a form of political blackmail. They're saying, vote for me because the Greens are more extreme than Penny Wong, which is probably right, but there's not much of a difference, is there really, if you boil all down? I mean, Jewish voters are not stupid, right? We've observed Penny Wong's behaviour. As I wrote in my article in the Jewish News this week, when I was in Kfar Aza, she was in Ramallah in January last year. She refused to visit, the places that Hamas stormed on the Gaza border. So Labor is simply saying, look, Burns is saying, we might be terrible, but this mob are worse. And I think there's a point at which, people have got to understand if Burns does come third, he will be the one electing the Greens. And you look at what Labor have done. I mean, Mark Dreyfus has put the Greens second. Really, Mark? I mean, Albanese's put second on his how to vote card this Greens woman who's accused him of complicity in mass murder. She has said, she's one of these extreme Greens who said the government's complicit in genocide. Well, there's no genocide. And secondly, to accuse Albanese of complicity in mass murder, but he's still given her number two. Really, Anthony? And the Labor Party say, oh, but reward us because the Greens are worse. Well, they are worse, but marginally worse given what the Labor Party have done, in my view.
Well, yeah, I mean, we hear from a lot of people that the preferencing doesn't matter and everyone can choose who they want to preference. But the reality is a significant percentage of people just follow the how to vote card. So all Josh Burns needed to do, if he was actually concerned about the Greens, would be to put them last, and that would have shifted a sizable amount of people and ensure they didn't win.
Yeah, absolutely correct. I mean, Burns is, there's every chance he comes third. If he'd preferenced the Liberals, then Benson Sala would certainly win. In issuing an open ticket, it probably means it's hard to judge. 60% of his preferences will go to the Greens. Well, they're going to get elected on Josh Burns's preferences. So if the guy had any decency, any political morality, he would have said, you know, the Greens are shocking and I can't preference them equally with the Liberals. I have to preference the Greens last. But he's saying to Jewish voters there's no difference between the Greens and the Liberals on issues in relation to Israel. Well, that's just despicable. So if he preferenced Benson Salo, the Greens wouldn't win. If he preferenced, Benson Salo, then the Greens wouldn't win. If you look at what happened, there was a state by-election down here in Paran, which is very, very similar to the federal seat of Macnamara. And Tony Lupton is well known, the former Labor member for that seat, ran. He's a Bob Hawke Labor man, and he ran he ran as an independent Labor and preferenced the Liberals. Now we got 63.5% of his preferences. So what that tells you is, if Burns preferenced Benson Salo, then Benson Salo, the Liberal, would probably get 63.5, 60, 65% of Burns's preference. The Liberal Party would then win Macnamara. But in Burns issuing an open how to vote ticket, we'll probably get less than 50%, and Burns may elect the Green on his preferences.
So I think what we've seen, you mentioned the Paran by-election, and we saw also local council elections in different states, and we saw in the Queensland state election that the Greens, there's been grassroots campaigns against them. They're toxic. So it's entirely possible that the Greens vote will be lower, that people will be turned off because of what they've seen. So what you're saying is that it's entirely possible Benson Salo will win, and your advice would be to put, I'm assuming, to put the Liberals first, and then some other order, obviously with the Greens last. Would that be correct?
Yep, that's absolutely correct. So Benson Salo is a very good guy. He's very loyal, trustworthy. A decade ago, he did a little bit of work for Di Natale when he was starting out in politics. We all know that. His views have solidified towards free enterprise, free markets, free speech in the Liberal Party. And on the issues related to the Jewish community, he is 100% rock solid. I mean, I've been to the Caulfield Shul on a number of occasions. He's always there. He's at every Jewish function. He's a brother. He is very trustworthy on these issues. And if Burns, and he's still got time, right? There's no Burns has issued a how to vote card. He can still change it, by the way. And I call on Burns to change his how to vote card to preference the Liberals second. And if he preferences the Liberals second, then there's every chance that Benson Salo would then be strong favourite to win that seat. But in leaving it open, Burns gives every chance that the Greens will win on his preferences. You're right, though. The Greens vote has been down nationally. They did very poorly in the Paran by-election. That's the state election we're talking about, state by-election we're talking about. Their primary vote was stuck on 36. At the last election, 36 on this election. Why is that a bad result? Because Labor did not have an official Labor candidate. And that 25% of people that would have normally voted Labor, 80% of those would normally go to Labor, but they actually got zero. So the Greens did very, very poorly. So the Greens are toxic, right? It's not fashionable now for young people to support the Greens. The Greens support is stuck in their their old supporters. But are they picking up new supporters? I wouldn't think so. I mean, green racism is endemic in this country, anti-Semitism. We've seen the behaviour of Jennifer Leong and so many others, despicable comments by Greens candidates, published mainly in the Australian newspaper, which has been wonderful on those issues that, exposing this racism. The Greens, the Greens have a lot to answer for what's happening in the social dislocation in our country. So their vote may also suffer, which is another reason why Benson Sallow's primary vote hopefully will be, mid to high 30s, early 40s. If he gets early 40s, he'll win. So we're hoping for that. If he gets mid to high 30s, if Josh Burns comes third and preferences Benson Sallow will win. So it's not too late for Burns to change his mind. There's a long way to go till Saturday week, and it's not too late for him to do the decent and honourable thing.
So he should do the right thing. And I've got to second what you said about Benson Solo. I've met with him. He's spoken at an AJ event. He's a huge supporter of the Jewish community. Just a very impressive man, and he'd be a great addition.
He is.
There's also some smaller right wing parties with some great candidates in the seat that I think will also their votes will preference Benson. So it'll be interesting to watch. But I want to thank you, Michael, for joining us. For